Captain Li Wujin stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Indomitable, watching the stars through the main display. The ship had been traveling through space for 3 weeks, looking for new planets that humans could visit. Li had been a space captain for 15 years and he loved his job. Every day brought something new and exciting. The Indomitable was one of Earth's newest ships. It could travel faster than light and had the best computers and weapons that humans had ever built. The ship carried 200 crew members, including scientists, engineers, and soldiers. They were all experts at their jobs and worked well together. Dr. Park So-young sat at her science station, studying data from nearby star systems. She was the ship's chief scientist and knew more about alien life than almost anyone in the human space fleet. Park had short black hair and always wore her lucky red jacket when working. She had been hoping to find signs of intelligent alien life for her entire career. Commander Kim Tae-ho walked around the bridge, checking on the different crew members. He was responsible for keeping the ship safe and making sure everyone followed orders. Kim was tall and strong with a serious face that rarely smiled. He had fought in several battles against space pirates and knew how dangerous the galaxy could be. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of computers and the gentle sounds of people working. Then, suddenly, one of the communication officers called out, "Captain Lee, we're getting a strange signal from space. It's not like anything I've seen before." Lee walked over to the communication station. "Show me what you found." The officer pointed at his screen. "The signal is very strong and coming from multiple directions. It's definitely artificial, not natural. And Captain, it's being sent to thousands of star systems at the same time." Dr. Park heard this and came over quickly. "That's impossible. No one has that kind of communication power. Even our best systems can only send messages to a few dozen places at once." Lee frowned. "Can you decode the message?" "I'm trying, sir. The language is completely unknown, but our computers are working on it. Wait, I think we're getting something." The main screen flickered and showed strange symbols that slowly changed into human words. The computer's voice began to read the message aloud. "Attention. Primitive species of Sector 47G. This is the supreme hegemon of the Vorthak Empire. Your pathetic civilization has entered space belonging to the mighty Galactic Empire. You will surrender immediately or face total destruction." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped working and listened to the message. "You have 30 of your primitive days to send a complete surrender. You must give up all weapons, all ships, and all technology. Your leaders will bow before the supreme hegemon. Your people will serve the Empire forever. Resistance is futile. The Vorthak fleet has conquered 10,000 worlds. Your tiny civilization cannot stop us." The message continued for several more minutes, listing all the things humans would have to do if they surrendered. It demanded that Earth send all its gold, technology, and smartest people to serve the Empire. It said that any humans who refused would be destroyed along with their entire planet. When the message ended, the bridge was silent for a long moment. Then, Commander Kim started to laugh. It was a quiet chuckle at first, but it grew louder. "Are they serious?" Kim asked. "Did they just threaten to destroy Earth with ships that are using century-old technology?" Dr. Park was looking at her computer screen with amazement. "Captain, I've analyzed their transmission signal. The technology they're using is incredibly primitive. Our civilian communication networks are more advanced than their military systems." Lee raised his eyebrows. "How primitive are we talking about?" "Their ships appear to be using basic fusion engines, simple radio communication, and what looks like early-generation energy weapons. Captain, my daughter's school project has better technology than these aliens." The communications officer spoke up. "Sir, there's more. I've detected the source points of this transmission. They're sending it from exactly 47,328 different star systems. But here's the strange part. Each transmission point only has 1 or 2 ships." Commander Kim stopped, laughing, and became serious. "Wait, they're trying to threaten almost 50,000 worlds with less than 100,000 ships? That's not an invasion fleet. That's barely a patrol force." Dr. Park nodded. "And spread that thin across the galaxy, they probably have no more than 2 or 3 ships per system." Captain, I don't think these aliens have fought a real war in a very long time. Lee sat down in his captain's chair and thought carefully. Let me understand this. These Vorthak aliens are threatening to destroy human civilization using technology that we stopped using 200 years ago, and they're doing it with a fleet that's spread so thin they probably can't defend their own territory. That's exactly right, sir, Dr. Park said. But Captain, there's something else. I've been studying their language patterns and communication style. This message wasn't written recently. The grammar structure and word choices suggest it's a very old message that they've been using for a long time. Commander Kim crossed his arms. You mean they're using the same threatening letter for every species they encounter? It looks that way. They probably haven't updated their first contact procedures in centuries, maybe even thousands of years. Lee stood up and walked to the main screen, which still showed the alien symbols. So let me get this straight. These aliens have been sending the same threatening message to every new species they find, hoping to scare them into surrendering without a fight. Yes, sir. And it's probably been working because most species they encounter are either pre-spaceflight or just beginning to explore their local systems. The captain turned to face his crew. But we're not most species, are we? A smile spread across Commander Kim's face. No, sir, we're definitely not. Dr. Park was still studying her computers. Captain, I'm reading something interesting about their ship designs. They appear to be using the same basic hull structure for all their vessels. No innovation, no adaptation, for different purposes. It's like they built one type of ship 1,000 years ago and never improved it. What about their weapons? Lee asked. Basic energy cannons with limited range and power. Our defensive shields could probably stop their attacks without any trouble. And Captain, their ships don't appear to have any artificial intelligence systems at all. Commander Kim whistled softly. No AI? How do they operate their ships? With huge crews doing everything manually. It's incredibly inefficient. One of our ships could probably handle 20 of theirs just because of our automation and computer systems. Lee walked back to his chair and sat down. Crew, I want a full analysis of everything we know about these Vorthak aliens. I want to know their technology level, their military capacity, their communication methods, and anything else you can find. Yes, sir, Dr. Park said. Captain, what are you thinking? Lee smiled for the first time since the message arrived. I'm thinking that these aliens have been bullying the galaxy for a very long time, and no one has ever stood up to them. They're used to scaring primitive civilizations into surrendering. But we're not primitive, Commander Kim said. No, we're not. And I think it's time someone showed the galaxy that the Emperor has no clothes. Dr. Park looked confused. Captain? It's an old Earth story about a ruler who was tricked into thinking he was wearing magnificent clothes, when actually he was wearing nothing at all. Everyone was too afraid to tell him the truth until a child pointed out that he was naked. Commander? Kim grinned. And we're the child in this story. Exactly. These Vorthak aliens have been pretending to be a mighty empire for so long that everyone believes it. But they're really just using old technology and empty threats. The communications officer spoke up. Captain, should I send a reply to their message? Lee thought for a moment. Not yet. First, I want to know everything about them. Then we're going to send them a reply they'll never forget. Dr. Park was excited. Captain, this could be the most important first contact in human history. It could be, but not in the way anyone expected. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Indomitable worked together to learn everything they could about the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Park's computers analyzed their technology and found it to be even more primitive than they first thought. The aliens were using fusion engines that humans had replaced with antimatter drives over a century ago. Their weapons were so weak that modern human armor could stop them easily. Commander Kim studied their military tactics and found that they relied entirely on fear and intimidation. There was no evidence that they had fought any real battles in hundreds of years. They simply sent threatening messages and waited for civilizations to surrender. The communications team discovered that the Vorthak Empire had been using the exact same surrender demand for over 3,000 years. They sent it to every new species they detected, always giving them 30 days to surrender. Captain, Dr. Park said, I think I understand how their empire works. They find new civilizations that are just beginning space travel. These civilizations see messages from thousands of star systems and think they're facing a massive military force, so they surrender without fighting. And the Vortex never have to actually prove how strong they are, Lee said. Right. They've built their entire empire on FE. 3 days after receiving the Vortex message, Admiral Kang Hyejin sat in her office on Earth's largest space station. The Admiral was in charge of all human military operations beyond Earth's solar system. She was reading Captain Lee's report about the alien threat when her communication system buzzed. Admiral Agent Yoon Ji-hai is here to see you. Send her in. Agent Yoon walked into the office and saluted. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and short hair. Yoon had spent most of her career sneaking into dangerous places and gathering information that other people couldn't get. She was the best spy in the human space forces. Agent Yoon, thank you for coming so quickly. I need you to do something very important for our species. What do you need, Admiral? Admiral Kang handed her a datapad with Captain Lee's report. These Vorthak aliens claim to rule a galactic empire, but Captain Lee thinks they're much weaker than they pretend to be. I need you to find out the truth. Yoon read the report quickly. Her eyebrows went up as she read about the primitive technology and empty threats. Admiral, if Captain Lee is right, this could change everything we know about the galaxy. Exactly. But we need proof before we do anything. I want you to take a stealth ship into Vorthak territory and see what they're really like. That sounds very dangerous, Admiral. It is. But you'll have the best equipment and the smartest people with you. I'm also sending engineer Choi Dong-wook. He's our best technology expert. Yoon nodded. What kind of ship will we be using? The Whisper. It's our newest stealth vessel. It can hide from almost any sensor system we know about. 2 days later, Yoon and her team were aboard the Whisper, preparing to leave human space. Engineer Choi was checking all the ship's systems. He was a tall man with thick glasses who loved working with complicated machines. Choi had helped design many of the computers and engines that human ships used. Agent Yoon, Choi said, all systems are ready. Our stealth technology should make us invisible to anything the Vorthax have. Good. How long will it take us to reach their territory? About 1 week if we use maximum speed, but we should slow down when we get close so they don't detect us. The Whisper was much smaller than the Indomitable, with only 20 crew members, but it was packed with the most advanced technology humans had ever built. The ship could become invisible to sensors, record everything it saw, and escape from danger very quickly. Captain Han Soo-min was in charge of flying the ship. She was young but very skilled at piloting stealth vessels. Han had never been caught. During any of her secret missions, Agent Yoon, we're ready to depart whenever you give the order. Take us out, Captain Han. Let's go see what this mighty empire really looks like. The journey to Vorthak space took 8 days. During the trip, the team studied everything they knew about the aliens and planned their mission. They would observe Vorthak ships and planets from a safe distance, record everything they could, and return to Earth with proof. When they reached the edge of Vorthak territory, Captain Han activated the ship's stealth systems. The Whisper became invisible to all sensors and slowly moved into alien space. Agent Yoon, Captain Han said, I'm detecting several Vorthak ships ahead. Should we get closer? Yes, but be very careful. We need to see their technology up close. The first Vorthak ship they found was huge but looked very old. Engineer Choi studied it with the Whisper's sensors and shook his head in amazement. Agent Yoon, this ship is incredibly primitive. Look at these readings. Choi showed her his computer screen. Their hull is made of basic metal alloys that we stopped using centuries ago. Their engines are simple fusion drives with terrible efficiency. And their weapons are just basic energy cannons. How basic are we talking about? Our civilian cargo ships have better weapons than this warship, and their computers are so primitive that they probably can't even calculate complex navigation without help. Yoon was amazed. You mean their most advanced warship is weaker than our cargo vessels? Much weaker. Agent Yoon, I don't think these aliens have improved their technology in thousands of years. Over the next 3 days, the team observed dozens of Vorthak ships and 3 of their planets. What they found was shocking. The Vorthak Empire was Exactly what Captain Lee had suspected. A civilization that had stopped growing and learning long ago. Engineer Choi discovered that every Vorthak ship was built using the same old design. They had different sizes, but the technology was identical. Small fighters, large battleships, and cargo vessels all use the same engines, the same weapons, and the same computers. It's like they built one type of technology 1,000 years ago and never thought to improve it, Choi told Yoon. But how? Did they conquer so many worlds? I think I know the answer to that. Choi showed her recordings of Vorthak planets. The worlds were full of different alien species, but most of them looked very primitive. Many were still using simple rockets to travel between planets in their own solar systems. Agent Yoon, I think the Vorthaks have been conquering civilizations that barely have space travel. When a species sees ships coming from thousands of star systems, they assume they're facing an advanced empire and surrender. So they've never had to fight anyone with real technology? Exactly. They pick on weak civilizations and avoid anyone who might be able to fight back. Captain Han found something even more interesting. Agent Yoon, I've been monitoring their communications. Listen to this. She played a recording of Vorthak aliens talking to each other. The computer translated their words into human language. Central. Command, this is Patrol Ship 47. We have completed our intimidation run through Sector 12. No new species detected. Patrol Ship 47, continue your route. Remember, if you find any species with advanced technology, avoid contact and report to Headquarters immediately. Understood, Central Command. We only engage primitive civilizations. Yoon and her team looked at each other in amazement. The Vorthaks were actively avoiding any species that might be too advanced to intimidate. This is incredible, Yoon said. They're not a mighty empire at all. They're bullies who only pick on weak civilizations. Engineer Choi had been studying their military numbers. Agent Yoon, I've calculated the size of their actual fleet. They have about 200,000 ships spread across 50,000 star systems. That doesn't sound like very many. It's not. That's only 4 ships per star system on average. Many systems probably have only 1 or 2 ships. They can't possibly defend their territory if someone actually fights back. Captain Han was listening to more Vorthak communications. Agent Yoon, you need to hear this. It's a message from their supreme hegemon to his military commanders. The recording played. All fleet commanders, remember that our empire depends on fear, not strength. Never engage any species that shows advanced technology. Our weapons and ships are only effective against primitive civilizations. If anyone challenges us directly, retreat immediately and request reinforcements. The team was quiet for a moment, then Yoon started to laugh. They know they're weak. Their own leader is telling his military to run away from anyone with good technology. Engineer Choi nodded. Agent Yoon, this empire is like a house made of paper. It looks big and scary from far away, but one strong wind would blow it down. And humans are about to be that strong wind. Over the next 2 days, they gathered more evidence. They found that the Vorthak Empire had no research facilities working on new technology. Their factories were still making the same ships and weapons they had been producing for millennia. Most shocking of all, they discovered that many Vorthak colonies were actually unhappy with their empire. Captain Han intercepted messages from Vorthak civilians complaining about their government. Many wanted to learn new technologies and explore the galaxy, but their leaders forbade any innovation or change. Agent Yoon, Captain Han said, it sounds like many Vorthaks would welcome change if someone gave them the chance. That's very interesting, Captain. Engineer Choi had finished his analysis of Vorthak technology. Agent Yoon, I have all the proof we need. This empire is completely hollow. They have old technology, weak military forces, and many of their own. People are unhappy. If someone stood up to them, their entire empire would probably collapse. Then let's go home and give Earth the evidence they need. The journey back to human space took 7 days. During the trip, Yoon and her team prepared a detailed report about everything they had discovered. The evidence was overwhelming. The Vorthak Empire was not the mighty force it pretended to be. When they arrived at Earth Space Station, Admiral Kang was waiting for them. Agent Yoon, what did you find? Admiral, Captain Lee was right about everything. The Vorthak Empire is weak, primitive, and afraid of any real opposition. Yoon handed her the complete report. Admiral Kang read it quickly, her eyes getting wider with each page. This is unbelievable. You're telling me that this Galactic Empire is actually just a group of bullies with old technology? Yes, Admiral, and they know it. Their own communications prove that they avoid any species with advanced technology. Engineer Choi stepped forward. Admiral, one human ship could probably defeat 10 of their warships without any trouble. Their technology is that primitive. Admiral, Kang sat down and thought carefully. If this is true, then we have a responsibility to act. These aliens have been terrorizing the galaxy for thousands of years. What do you think, Im? President Lim Seok-jin sat in the highest government building on Earth, reading Agent Yoon's report for the third time. The president was a calm man who always thought carefully before making important decisions. But what he was reading made him both angry and excited. So these Vorthak aliens have been lying to the entire galaxy for thousands of years, he said to his advisors. General Oh Min-jun, the leader of all human military forces, nodded grimly. Yes, Mr. President, they've built their empire on fear and empty threats. But now we know the truth. Dr. Shin Yena, the government's chief communication expert, was studying the alien messages on her computer. Mr. President, this is the biggest deception in galactic history. Thousands of civilizations have surrendered to these aliens because they were afraid of a lie. President Lim stood up and walked to the window. He could see Earth's beautiful blue oceans and white clouds below. General O, if we wanted to destroy this Vorthak Empire, how long would it take? With our current military strength? Probably 6 months to defeat their entire fleet, maybe less if we used our newest weapons. But that's not the right approach, Dr. Shin said. Mr. President, if we simply destroy them, we become the new bullies. The galaxy would be afraid of us instead of them. The president turned around. What do you suggest, Dr. Shin? We expose them. We show the entire galaxy what these aliens really are. We prove that their mighty empire is just a lie. General O frowned. How do we do that? Dr. Shin smiled. We embarrass them. We show everyone that their technology is primitive, their military is weak, and their threats are empty. We make them look foolish instead of dangerous. President Lim sat back down. That's an interesting idea. But how exactly do we embarrass an entire galactic empire? We use their own communication system against them. We send a message to every star system in the galaxy, just like they did. But instead of threats, we send proof. General O was interested. Now, what kind of proof? We show them our technology. We demonstrate that everything the Vorthaks claim to be advanced is actually primitive compared to what humans have built. President Lim thought about this. Dr. Shin, that sounds very risky. If we reveal our capabilities, other alien species might become afraid of us. Not if we do it right, Mr. President. We don't threaten anyone. We simply educate them. We show them the truth about technology and give them hope that they don't have to be afraid anymore. General O was nodding. I like this plan. Instead of conquering the galaxy with force, we free it with knowledge. Exactly, Dr. Shin said. And we do it in a way that makes the Vorthaks look foolish rather than evil. That way, their own people won't fight to defend them. President Lim made his decision. Dr. Shin, I want you to work with Captain Lee to create this message. General O, I want our best ships ready to protect any species that asks for our help after we send this broadcast. Yes, Mr. President. 3 days later, Captain Lee arrived at Earth to help create humanity's response to the Vorthak Empire. He met with Dr. Shin and her team of communication experts in a large room filled with computers and recording equipment. Captain Lee, Dr. Shin said, we want to create a message that will be seen across the entire galaxy. It needs to be educational, entertaining, and completely devastating to Vorthak credibility. What do you have in mind, Dr. Shin? We're going to make a documentary, an educational program that shows the difference between primitive and advanced technology. And we're going to use actual Vorthak equipment as examples of how not to build spaceships. Captain Lee smiled. Where are we going to get Vorthak equipment? That's the best part. We don't need to steal it. We're going to build replicas using their own technical specifications. Then we'll demonstrate why their designs are so ineffective. Dr. Park So-young, who had come to Earth with Captain Lee, was excited about the plan. Dr. Shin, this could be the most important educational broadcast in galactic history. That's exactly what we want it to be. The team spent 2 weeks creating their response. They built perfect replicas of Vorthak ships using the same primitive technology the aliens used. Then they filmed Dr. Park explaining why the alien designs were so ineffective. These Vorthak fusion engines, Dr. Park said to the camera, produce only 1/10 the power of modern human antimatter drives. Their energy weapons are so weak that our civilian cargo ships have stronger defensive shields. Captain Lee demonstrated human technology by showing their advanced computers, quantum communication systems, and nanomaterial construction. He explained each system in simple language that any intelligent species could understand. The difference between primitive and advanced technology, Captain Lee said, is not just about power. It's about efficiency, adaptability, and intelligence. Modern technology grows and improves over time. Primitive technology stays the same for centuries. The most important part of their message was the offer they made at the end. Captain Lee looked directly into the camera and spoke clearly. To all civilizations in the galaxy, you do not have to be afraid anymore. The Vorthak Empire has no power except the fear they create with lies. If you want to learn about real technology, if you want to trade knowledge and ideas, if you want to explore the galaxy as free species, we invite you to contact us. We are not here to conquer or control anyone. We are here to prove that cooperation is stronger than intimidation, that knowledge is more powerful than threats, and that the galaxy belongs to all of us, not to bullies with old ships and empty words. Dr. Shin had added one final element to make the message even more effective. Captain Lee, we want to broadcast this in every language that exists in the galaxy. Our computers have analyzed thousands of alien communication systems. We can translate our message so that every species will understand it perfectly. How many languages is that? Over 3,000 different species use language in this galaxy. We're going to send our message in all of their languages simultaneously. When the message was complete, President Lim came to see it before they sent it to the galaxy. He watched the entire broadcast with his advisors. This is perfect, the president said. It's educational, respectful, and completely destroys Vorthak credibility without making us look like conquerors. General O agreed. Mr. President, this message will change everything. Species that have been living in fear for thousands of years will finally understand that they can be free. Dr. Shin was ready to send the broadcast. Mr. President, once we transmit this message, there's no going back. The galaxy will never be the same. I understand, Dr. Shin. Send the message. The broadcast went out to every star system in the galaxy, using the most powerful communication network humans had ever built. The message reached 50,000 worlds simultaneously, just like the Vorthak surrender demands. But instead of threats, it carried knowledge and hope. Within hours, responses began arriving from across the galaxy. The first message came from a species called the Malarians who had been forced to serve the Vorthak Empire for over 2,000 years. Greetings, humans of Earth. We have received your educational broadcast and analyzed your technology demonstrations. We can confirm that everything you have said about Vorthak primitive systems is accurate. We have been building their ships for centuries and always wondered why the designs were so ineffective. More messages followed quickly. Species after species contacted Earth to confirm that the human broadcast was true. Many had secretly suspected that Vorthak technology was old and weak, but they had been too afraid to test their theories. The response that made Captain Lee laugh the loudest came from a species called the Zephyrians. Dear human friends, thank you for explaining why Vorthak ships break down so often. We have been repairing their terrible engines for hundreds of years, and could never understand why they were built so poorly. Now we know it is because the designs are thousands of years old. We would very much like to learn about your antimatter drives. But the most important responses came from within Vorthak territory itself. Alien species that had been conquered by the Empire began demanding their freedom. They sent copies of the human broadcast to their Vorthak overlords and asked why they had been lied to for so long. Dr. Shin monitored the galactic communication networks and reported to President Lim about what was happening. Mr. President, our broadcast has started a revolution. Dozens of species are declaring independence from the Vorthak Empire. They're no longer afraid because they know the truth. What about the Vorthaks themselves? How are they responding? Their government is in chaos. They're sending desperate messages to their military commanders, but no one is listening anymore. Even their own colonies are questioning their authority. General O had more news. Mr. President, we're receiving requests for protection from newly independent worlds. They want human ships to help defend them in case the Vorthaks try to attack. Are we ready to provide that protection? Yes, sir. Admiral Kang has prepared a fleet of ships to assist any species that asks for help. 3 days after the broadcast, the Vorthak Empire sent an official response to humanity. Supreme Hegemon Vorthtar himself recorded a message that was transmitted to Earth. Humans of the primitive planet Earth, you have made a terrible mistake. The mighty Vorthak Empire will not tolerate your lies and propaganda. We demand that you surrender immediately or face the full power. 2 weeks after humanity's broadcast reached the galaxy, Ambassador Han So-jin stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony. She was watching dozens of alien ships gathering near a small planet called Zerion Prime. These ships belonged to species that had declared independence from the Vorthak Empire after learning the truth about their supposed overlords. Ambassador, Han was an expert at talking with different cultures and making them feel comfortable. She had short gray hair and kind eyes that made people trust her quickly. Today, she was going to attend the first meeting of free worlds in over 3,000 years. Ambassador, said Captain Bae Junho, who commanded the human fleet protecting the newly independent worlds. We're receiving signals from 47 different species. They all want to attend this meeting. Captain Bae was a strong man with a calm voice who had spent his career keeping peace between different groups. His ships were positioned around the meeting area to make sure the Vorthaks couldn't interrupt the gathering. That's wonderful, Captain Bae. Have there been any problems? A few Vorthak ships tried to approach the area yesterday, but they left when they saw our fleet. I don't think they want to test our weapons. Engineer Ryu Da-un was working at a computer station, analyzing messages from the alien species. She was a young woman who understood technology better than almost anyone in the human space forces. Her job was to help the newly free worlds improve their defensive capabilities. Ambassador Han, Engineer Ryu said, I've been studying the technical requests from these species. Many of them have incredible innovations that they were never allowed to use under Vorthak rule. What kind of innovations? The Malarians developed a new type of shield technology, but the Vorthaks forbade them from using it. The Zephyrians created advanced sensors that are actually better than ours in some ways. The Corithians built ship designs that are much more efficient than anything the Vorthaks use. Ambassador Han was amazed. You mean these species had better technology all along? Some of them, yes, but they were forced to use only Vorthak-approved systems. They had to hide their innovations or risk being punished. Captain Bae shook his head. The Vorthaks weren't just using fear to control people. They were actively preventing progress across the entire galaxy. The first alien ship to arrive for the meeting belonged to the Malarians. Ambassador Han watched as the sleek vessel approached the Harmony. The Malarian ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and bright colors that made it look like a work of art. Ambassador Han, came a voice over the communication system. This is Diplomat Kalandra of the Malarian Republic. We request permission to come aboard your ship. Permission granted, Diplomat Kalandra. We're honored to meet you. An hour later, Ambassador Han stood in the Harmony's main meeting room with representatives from 12 different alien species. More ships were arriving every few hours, bringing delegates from across the galaxy. The Malarians looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large eyes. The Zephyrians were shorter and covered in soft fur that changed colors based on their emotions. The Corithians had forearms and could think much faster than most other species. Friends, Ambassador Han said, thank you all for coming to this historic meeting. 2 weeks ago, most of you were afraid to speak freely. Today, you are here as representatives of free worlds. Diplomat Kelandra spoke first. Ambassador Han, the Malarian people want to thank humanity for showing us the truth. We have been slaves to Vorthak lies for 2,000 years. We are grateful that you had the courage to stand up to them, said scientist Zephalon of the Zephyrians. Our people had almost given up hope that anyone would ever challenge the Empire. Engineer Chief Corythex of the Corythians made a clicking sound with her 4 hands. The humans have given us something more valuable than freedom. They have given us the knowledge that we can build our own destiny. Over the next several days, more species joined the meeting. The gathering grew from 12 species to 30, then 50, then over 100. Representatives came from every corner of the galaxy, all sharing stories about their experiences under Vorthak rule. Engineer Ryu worked with alien scientists to understand their hidden technologies. What she discovered amazed her. Ambassador Han, Ryu said, these species have been developing incredible innovations in secret for centuries. The Vorthaks forced them to use primitive technology, but they never stopped learning and growing. Show me what you found. Ryu activated a holographic display that showed dozens of alien inventions. The Malarians created shield systems that are 300% more efficient than anything we use. The Zephyrians developed sensors that can detect ships from twice the distance of our best equipment. The Corythians built engines that use half the fuel of our antimatter drives. This is incredible. Why didn't the Vorthaks use these technologies themselves? Because they don't understand innovation. They think that if something worked 1,000 years ago, it doesn't need to be improved. They saw these new inventions as threats to their authority. Ambassador Han realized something important. Engineer Ryu, if we combine human technology with these alien innovations, we could create systems that are far more advanced than anything the galaxy has ever seen. Exactly. And we could share these technologies with everyone, creating a galaxy where all species benefit from each other's knowledge. While the diplomatic meetings continued, Captain Bay was dealing with a different kind of problem. Vorthak ships were gathering at the edges of the meeting area, and their commanders were sending increasingly desperate messages. Human ships, came a transmission from a Vorthak vessel. You are interfering with internal Imperial affairs. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. Captain Bay responded calmly. Vorthak vessel, these worlds have declared their independence freely. We are here to protect their right to self-determination. Those worlds belong to the Vorthak Empire. They have no right to independence. According to what law? According to what authority? You ruled through fear and lies. Now that the truth is known, your authority no longer exists. The Vorthak commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, you don't understand what you're doing. Without the Empire, these worlds will fall into chaos. We understand perfectly. These worlds are choosing freedom over oppression, truth over lies, and cooperation over fear. If that seems chaotic to you, perhaps it's because you've forgotten what real civilization looks like. 3 days into the meeting, something unexpected happened. A Vorthak ship approached the gathering, but instead of threatening anyone, it requested permission to join the meeting. This is Commander Vorthkek of the Imperial Ship Dominator, came the transmission. I request to speak with the human ambassador. Captain Bay was suspicious. Commander Vorthkek, state your intentions. I wish to discuss the future of my crew and my people. Many of us no longer believe in the Empire's methods. Ambassador Han decided to take the risk. Permission granted, Commander, but your weapons must remain powered down. An hour later, Commander Vorthkek stood in the meeting room with the other delegates. He was a large alien with gray skin and 4 eyes, wearing an ornate military uniform. But he looked tired and sad rather than threatening. Delegates of the free worlds, Commander Vorthkek said, I come before you to apologize for the crimes of my empire and to ask for guidance. The room was very quiet. Many of the alien delegates had never seen a Vorthak apologize for anything. I have served the Empire for 300 years, the commander continued. I believed we were bringing order and stability to the galaxy. But the human broadcast showed me the truth. We were not bringing order. We were preventing progress. Diplomat Kalandra spoke carefully. Commander Vorthkek, what do you want from us? I want to know if there is a place in this new galaxy for Vorthax who reject the Empire's ways. My crew and I want to learn about real technology and real cooperation. We want to help build something better. Ambassador Han was moved by the commander's words. Commander, anyone who chooses freedom over oppression is welcome in the community we're building, but you must understand that it will take time for people to trust you. I understand, Ambassador. The Empire has done terrible things in our name. We must prove that we have truly changed. Engineer Ryu had an idea. Commander Vorthkek, would you and your crew be willing to help us understand Vorthak technology? Not to use it, but to help other species avoid making the same mistakes? Yes, Engineer Ryu. We know every weakness in Imperial technology because we've been forced to use it for centuries. We would be honored to help others build something better. Over the following days, more Vorthak ships arrived with crews who wanted to abandon the Empire. Some were military vessels whose commanders had grown tired of threatening innocent species. Others were civilian ships carrying Vorthak families who wanted to live in freedom. The most important arrival came on the 7th day of the meeting. Supreme Hegemon Vorthtar himself appeared on the main communication screen, broadcasting to all the ships in the area. Rebellious species of the galaxy, the Supreme Hegemon said, you have been deceived by human lies. Return to Imperial rule immediately, or we will demonstrate the true power of the Vorthak Empire. Ambassador Han looked at the hundreds of delegates in the meeting room. Representatives from over 200. 6 months had passed since the Vorthak Empire's defeat, and the galaxy looked completely different. Fleet Admiral Park Min-ho stood on the observation deck of the massive space station that orbited the planet New Hope. Through the large windows, he could see ships from hundreds of different species working together to build a better future. Fleet Admiral Park was a patient man who had spent his career bringing peace to dangerous situations. He had been chosen to oversee the difficult task of helping the former Vorthak Empire transform into something better. It was not an easy job, but it was the most important work he had ever done. Admiral Park, said his assistant, Counselor, Li Yunjung is ready for the council meeting. Thank you. How many species are attending today's session? 473, sir. We've never